I'm going to let you into a personal secret. I actually hate being on camera. Hi. I'm a massive introvert, and I've had to overcome all of these in order to build a multi-million-pound business. So in this week's show, I thought, why not share some of the tips and tricks that I've learned to go from really hating every time the camera coming out to actually feeling quite at home. And that's what we discuss on this week's show with a very special expert who helped me all the way through it. Let me start by showing you this. This is my very first marketing video in 2013. And take a look at the glum look on my face. There's a very important reason why I look so glum, which is that was about 6, maybe 7 hours after I'd started filming. And this video, this 3-minute video, and it took me all day to get to the point where I could actually sign that video off. And I was absolutely fed up, unhappy, and wishing I'd never even started my business at that moment. So if you're trying to build a clinic and a brand, a personal brand in particular, where people know you as an expert, there are actually, looking back, 4 steps that you need to implement. And on this show, I'm going to break down those 4 steps with an expert on those 4 steps, who's my lovely wife, Miranda, who's been through all of this with me over the last 15 years. You may remember her from some of the earlier shows. Well, she's back here today to share some of the insights about how she's done that through my system, but also then setting up her own system and her own social media channels to replicate the same thing, and helping hundreds, even thousands of injectors to do the same through building their own social media channels. I'd like to start with what you think the most important first step is.
It's doing a video imperfectly. Because we all imagine in our own heads, in our egos, that when we start, we're going to be like a news anchor and, be incredibly professional. And it cannot be. No matter how much talent you have, you are always going to be rubbish at the beginning. I remember our first Facebook Live we did together, and I wasn't appalling, but I was sort of like, hello, now we're going to do this. And now I'm like, boom, simply because I had the balls to start and to be brave enough at the beginning to be okay with being rubbish.
So I remember that live very well. I was appalling, and I noticed that I looked a lot like that dog who's been offered the cupcakes and is trying really hard to refuse. It's so stressed out looking at these cupcakes that it looks a bit like a dog on diazepam, and I gave myself the nickname of diazepam dog. But you mentioned something really important, which is the bravery to start. Now, I've got to thank you for a lot of the stages where you basically orchestrated something I couldn't get out of so that I had to do it. And although I was actually hating it, I did it, and that desensitizes you. But there's no getting away, particularly if you're more on the introvert end of the spectrum, there's no getting away from the discomfort. And I think that's what a lot of people stop because they feel like the discomfort is a sign they shouldn't be there. And actually, it's a sign that you're in the right place.
We believed in ourselves more afterwards, even though the delivery was a bit rubbish.
So that's the first step. Commit to doing something that usually feels scary, but do it anyway. And essentially what you're doing is demonstrating to yourself that you can step out of your comfort zone. So that's step 1. What's number 2?
You have to commit to showing up regularly. And the best way that I know of doing this, and what many of my students have done, is to pick a day, something you do in your day anyway. We all do something regular, whether it be walking the dog or, doing your morning routine. And while you're doing that, what I do is I have a piece of paper in our boot room, which has all of my dream customers' blocks on there. So things that are blocking them from taking action. And before I go on the dog walk, I literally look at the block and then I'll talk about it on my Instagram stories. Then I take that Instagram story, put it onto TikTok, but because I've committed to that small action for my life, which is a morning walk, I piggyback the content onto it.
So this is something we debated over the many years, and I have now capitulated, and I think you are correct and I'm wrong, which was I used to have this fixation over quality. Like, I only want to release it when it's really good. And you were like, you just need to make lots of content.
Both are true. There are people out there who post once a month and they have millions of followers. But for us normos, do we have that level of quality? And the answer is no. This YouTube show is incredibly quality now, but when we first started it in 2020, it was just rubbish. So we normos have to, I believe, commit to the small brave actions regularly so that we can find our voice, so that it's better to show up imperfectly and then iterate, which we'll go on to talk about, than it is to just try for perfection and hope we'll get there, because we just won't show up at all.
The biggest thing for me has been about getting the own internal voice out of my head. So actually, just to be in the moment and speak, it's not something that's easy to do. What most new people are doing when you first start is you're constantly thinking, oh, that sounds lame, I shouldn't say that, oh, I said I said or what is so-and-so going to think about this, I need to start again. And I did do this for a long period of time, produce content that never got released because I was so worried that I would somehow reveal my imperfections and no one would ever want to listen to me again. And actually, it's the exact opposite. You have to go through your imperfections and you have to keep talking, and that's what I think finding your voice is. But there's no way around it by producing your first perfect piece of content. The only way around it is to produce imperfect content for a long enough period of time that you become used to the situation, and then your content starts to get better. The next stage, which I know I've seen you do and you've helped us through as a team collectively, which is about systematization and iteration. Tell me about how that works in reality.
Well, to make it real for people watching this here now, if you have watched this show since the beginning, in 2020, you will see that we were in a random office somewhere. So we weren't in this beautiful purpose-built studio. Then COVID hit, and because we're husband and wife, we did it from the shed. And literally, you can see that it's a shed. Every time we did a show, we just improved one small little thing. Then we started doing better thumbnails. Then we started, like our position changed. And all these little things meant that over time, it grew into this beautiful thing that we all watch now. But crucially, all throughout, our goal was to help someone else. It wasn't to ingratiate ourselves and feel better about the content. It was always just make it communicate more clearly and better.
And this is one of the key things that you have also helped me enormously with is with setting a regular content schedule that you commit public to. So we used to do our Facebook Lives. So consistency, iteration, improving a little bit every week instead of trying to get it all right in one go. Anything else you'd add to that?
Well, just to emphasize the point about improving, if you were to go to the gym and you said, I want big muscles, you literally cannot get big muscles on your first session in the gym. You have to train, you have to tear those fibers and keep tearing them. And that's why it's important to show up imperfectly. I love this quote from RuPaul. He said, if they don't pay your bills, pay them bitches no mind. You've got to think about the people you're serving, not about your fellow gym members.
Okay, so let's get a bit more practical around what you can actually do to make those early days easier. Because I know a lot of people, you get up all your energy and you make one video that really takes it out of you and you put it on and it does mediocre or it doesn't do well at all, and then you don't look at it again for 6 weeks. How would you suggest, looking at the wealth of experience you've built up both personally with your own channel through our business where you've created many of the systems, and then finally through actually training and teaching other clinicians, what do you think would be the key step they could make in the early days to get content flowing?
I'd say if you are shy or an introvert, then you feel a little bit illegitimate suddenly showing up at the camera and saying, here are my tips, because you think, has anyone asked for these tips? So the way to get over yourself in that circumstance would be to ask a friend. Get someone who won't judge you, could be your mum or your sister or something, bring them along and get them to feed you questions. Because then the video or the piece of content is going to be so much more conversational like this is, and natural, and you are used to talking to patients, consulting. You're good with patients, but you think you're not good on camera. Well, guess what? If you get a fake patient ask you something from behind the camera, then the answer will be so much more natural.
So I'm really excited about something that Miranda's done recently, which we've been doing some research around what actually drives bookings. It's super powerful to realize both the sequence and the set that really work, because what you discovered is super interesting around small tweaks that make enormous differences. So tell us a little bit about what you've discovered and how people can find out more about it.
So my passion is social media and injectors getting new business from social media. But a lot of times people they'll try it and it won't work for them, and then they lose heart, as we've discussed. So I thought, right, I am going to get some actual science behind this. And I surveyed 800 injectors and I said, how many newbie bookings are you getting a week from social media? And there was a cohort of them who were getting 6 newbies consistently a week. So then my colleague Edwin went through all of these people and looked at their page, audited the page. And he found that these people getting more than 6 newbie bookings a week were doing the same 4 steps. And these steps are not rocket science, it's nothing crazy, but I basically have a backing for what I knew to be true anyway, and I'm going to be delivering it and letting everyone know on my webinar, doing a new webinar, so everyone can find out what these 4 steps are.
Okay, so 6 is actually a really powerful number, because if you get 6 clients with a 50% attrition rate, so you're actually losing half of them. I've just done the maths off camera, and you will actually fully book a clinician's time completely, 5 days a week, 10 appointments every single day within 18 months. So that is how you build a clinic from 0 to fully booked within 18 months. So that's a really powerful number to aim for. If you think you'd like to generate maybe 2,500 appointments a year within 18 months, make sure you sign up to the webinar.